Hi, and welcome along to our AFTV News Daily Special. Now, yesterday we had this massive debate about Mesut Ozil. Of course, Mesut Ozil refusing to take a pay cut of 12.5%. Ozil citing the fact that he wants to see what's going on first before he decides to do that. All the other players, well, actually, there's 3 players. Mesut Ozil was one of them who refused. Everybody else in the squad agreed to take a 12.5% pay cut if Arsenal don't get into the Champions League. If they make it into the Europa League, it'll be a 7.5% pay cut. If Arsenal make it into the Champions League, there'll be no pay cut. They'll get that money given back to them. But Mesut Ozil was sort of the headline story because he refused to take a pay cut. Now, yesterday, we had 2 videos that were going crazy. First of all, I spoke to DT in the All Guns Blazing podcast. And if you want to watch it in its entirety, the link is in the description. And he put up a passionate defense of Mesut Ozil and why Mesut Ozil's right to refuse a pay cut. And, you know, and it's up to him and it's down to him. Then in the evening show now, I had Lee Gunner on. It was the complete opposite. He was like very angry, a bit like Piers Morgan. Very upset that Mesut Ozil had refused to take a pay cut and he went in hard on him. So all of you yesterday were asking us, get these 2 together, let them both, you know, give their points of view on it. And maybe after we've heard from both of them, we might be able to decide who's right. Good luck with that. But we might be able to decide who's right. So I've got them both on. I've had to do a lot of wheeling and dealing and, you know, talking to these 2, right? And I've managed to get them together to discuss this. So thanks, guys, for coming on. Thank you to DT. Thank you to Lee Gunner. We're going to kick off with you first, DT. You made a very, very passionate defense of Mesut Ozil. Why do you think it was right for him to say he's not taking a pay cut? Why?
First and foremost, he's not actually said he's not taking a pay cut, period, full stop. He said that he wants to evaluate the situation. Nobody has any right to tell a man how they should deal with their contracts and their wages. All right, nobody. You know, Mesut Ozil doesn't have to take a wage cut, full stop. Mesut Ozil doesn't have to pay the cleaners. Mesut Ozil don't have to pay any staff members at Arsenal Football Club. Mesut Ozil does not employ any staff members. He is an employee of Arsenal Football Club. That is down to Stan Kroenke. It's his contract, his right to decide what he wants to do with it. Some of the abuse that he's been getting on social media is an utter disgrace. This is not about Mesut Ozil, the footballer, and what he does on the pitch. All right, if we were going to have a debate right now as to what Mesut Ozil does on the pitch, it would be an even contest. We'd have a really good debate because I'd have some valid points. Lee would have some valid points. But this ain't about Mesut Ozil on the football pitch. This is about Mesut Ozil and his contract situation and the wage cut. And Lee's got no valid points and will never win this argument. I watched his discussion with you yesterday. There was nothing valid in any of it in any way, shape or form. He was talking about how he needs to be looking after the cleaners and helping them and their jobs. What's Mesut Ozil got to help the cleaners for? Stan Kroenke owns the club. Let him go and pay for the staff, not Mesut Ozil. Why is Mesut Ozil the scapegoat? Why is there 2 other players that have, you know, not taken this wage cut? We saw the reports on ESPN last night that was saying that there's a lot of the young players in the squad, apparently, that actually felt pressured into taking a wage cut. You know, Mesut Ozil is old enough, wise enough, and strong enough to say, I'm not going to be pressured into making a decision. I'm going to sit back, I'm going to evaluate the situation, and I'm going to make sure that my money goes to the right places. How can you criticize a man that wants his money to go to the right places and not into the wrong hands and into someone else's back pocket? You've got absolutely no right whatsoever. No right.
Okay, Lee, You heard what DT said. He said you made no valid points yesterday. Is what he's saying. He's saying that nobody has the right to tell Mesut Ozil that he has to take a pay cut. I mean, why does he have to take a pay cut?
Right. Firstly, right, what he said is true. He doesn't legally have to take a pay cut. Yeah, doesn't have to do it. It's not his responsibility. I get all of that. Cool. He is one of the 4 captains. Obviously, we did have 5, but he's one of the 4 captains of this football club. He's the talismanic figure of this football club and has been since he arrived. We will see the celebrations the day we signed him. Yeah, everyone's been over the moon. Yeah, we've got Ozil and all that. He's now been here, what, 6, 7 years? He's one of the 5 captains, or now 4 captains, right? He's the highest paid player at the football club. Now, for me, when you look at Mesut Ozil, the footballer, this is irrelevant in this argument. Nothing to do with his footballing ability. I'm not going in on that, right? When I look at other players around the world that are the talismanic figures of their football club, Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo is single-handedly funding the Portuguese NHS right now, which I've seen a lot of people, including DC yesterday, saying Ozil does a lot for charity. Fantastic. Well, so does Cristiano Ronaldo, who's involved in 5 charities and is funding the NHS in Portugal. He has taken a 70% pay cut, and so have all of the Juve players, which, by the way, pay more tax on their money in Italy than we do in England. So Aaron Ramsey earns more than Mesut Ozil. He's paying tax on that money. So he's paying into the Italian NHS. He's also taken a 70% pay cut. Cool. Same as Mesut Ozil, but Mesut Ozil don't want to take the pay cut. When you look at the owner of Juventus, because I keep hearing people say, well, we don't know where this money's going to go, this pay cut's going to go. Well, it's going to the non-playing staff at Arsenal Football Club, which is why other teams around the world, including Barcelona, have taken these cuts. When you look at the owner of Juventus, he's actually worth £10 billion. He's worth 10 billion, which is worth more than Stan Kroenke. Are the fans of Juve sitting there going, oh, hang on a minute, what's the owner doing here? It's only at Arsenal this seems to be an issue, right? When you look at Barcelona, they're owned by the fans, right? So they're the highest paid sport franchise in world football, Barcelona. They are led by one of the greatest footballers of all time in Leo Messi, and they've taken a 70% pay cut. He also does a lot for UNICEF, yeah? The moral thing to do here is your talismanic figure, your hero of the football club to millions of idolizers every single week, is to go, do you know what? I'm going to help the good and great of this football club for many years to come. With a 12% pay cut or a 12.5% pay cut every month, he can pay one person at that football club, or help to pay one person at that football club, for 8 years on 18 grand. So if there's a person at the club shop who's on 18 grand a year, every single month of Mesut Ozil's 12.5% cut, that can either pay 8 people for a year or one person for 8 years. Without fans of a football club, Robbie, there is no football club. These players have eaten well out of football fans for as long as I can remember. You guys have been to so many games, it's unbelievable. The amount of money you put into football matches, yeah? If you've got Sky, BT, merchandise, anything like that, that all contributes to the good and great of paying our players, right? So now everybody, not just me or you or DT, everybody in the world right now is having some level of sacrifice. But Arsenal footballer Mesut Ozil doesn't need to have a sacrifice because he wants to check the balance sheets. Why? Why am I suffering, you suffering, DT suffering, everybody else suffering financially, taking a hit? The person who's risking their life to go and stack shelves every day so we can all eat, yeah, who are getting paid peanuts, by the way, that is pressure. So when these other players have reportedly come out and said, well, I felt pressured into it, absolute rubbish. Pressure is doing a 15-hour shift at the NHS, going home, eating, sleeping, getting up and going and risking your life again to save others, right? Okay. This guy, just to finish up, this guy is on 350 grand a week. And while he doesn't have to do it, the right and moral thing to do for the good and great of that football club, like other talismanic figures have done at other clubs that are worth more than Arsenal and have got owners that are worth more than Arsenal, is to put your bit in.
DT. So why can't he put his bit in? Why can't he put his bit in? You heard what Lee said there. You know, figures across other clubs, Messi, Ronaldo. You know, they've all taken cuts. What makes Mesut Ozil so special in this case? Right.
Well, first and foremost, Juventus have taken a 4-month pay cut. All right. This is a minimum 12 months. All right. This is for the lengths, parts of their contract. This is Mesut Ozil's last year of his contract as well. All right. A lot of Mesut Ozil's money is designated for certain charities. We all know that. And a lot of what he wants to do is make sure that none of those charities are affected by the money that's taken out of, you know, his wages. So he wants to look at everything morally so that he knows that it's not going to the wrong place.
But what about, isn't that the same for the others, though?
No. Listen, Robbie, why should Mesut Ozil help Stan Kroenke? Why should he help him? Mesut Ozil's responsibility, and I say this every single time, is not anybody outside of Arsenal Football Club. He is an employee. Remember that. He don't own Arsenal. If you're an employee of Arsenal, you're paid by the owners of Arsenal Football Club. It's down to them. A multi-billionaire, a man whose wife is a multi-billionairess, right? So it's not down to Mesut Ozil, right? Remember as well, that it wasn't long ago that Unai Emery, with assistance from board members and whatnot, were trying to push Mesut Ozil out of the club. So why should he help him?
Why should he help them, Lee?
Because
why should he? Because those are valid points. Why should he help Stan Kroenke?
So basically, he's cutting his
Stan
nose.
Kroenke owns the club, right?
Is that what you're saying? He's cutting his nose off to spite his face.
No. What I'm saying, I'm just making. I'm trying to moderate. And DT's making the point that Stan Kroenke owns the club.
Yep.
So why should Mesut Ozil help? And if they try to push him out as well.
Robbie, the owner of Juventus, the Agnelli family, is worth £10 billion, which is worth more than Stan Kroenke, right? Cristiano Ronaldo and co have taken a 4-month pay cut of 70%, yeah? We're asking our players to take a 1-year pay cut of 12.5%. If you add it up, there or thereabouts, it's going to be about the same. That is saving Juventus £89 million, which pays the non-playing staff. Why ain't their owner doing that? Why is it Stan Kroenke's the bad guy in this? Yeah, Stan Kroenke, by the way, is injecting money into the club and has offered these players a £100,000 bonus if we get Champions League football, either this season, which is not going to happen, or next season. So you'll get your 12% back, plus you'll get 100 grand back.
Oh, how nice of Stan Kroenke.
Fiorentina, who has Frank Ribery. Frank Ribery plays for Fiorentina. He's on 100 grand a week. Fiorentina have taken a voluntary pay cut for 4 years. They're not taking a single penny. For 4 months. Not a single penny. Frank Ribery's on 100 grand a week and said, boy, I don't need that money for the good and great of this football club. Keep it for the next 4 months. Yeah. But our guy, our talisman, can't do that. I'm sorry, Robbie, right? But without football fans, there's nothing. And morally, us as fans have been putting into a football club for years and years and years, collectively, globally, whatever. We have funded a part of their lifestyle. They're now sat at home, kicking a ball up against their mansion, not being able to train through no fault of their own, granted. The same as through no fault of our own, we're sat at home. Yeah, through no fault of anybody else's, 1/4 of this country are going to get made redundant and we're going to go into a mad recession. Yeah. A large percentage of this country are going to be furloughed and the staff are not going to get their extra 20% because the boss don't legally have to pay it. So if everybody else is feeling the pinch, why does he feel that he don't have to? Why shouldn't
DT? What, you heard what Lee said, morally.
Because he has no obligation to help anybody.
No, but morally.
Listen, Robbie, I don't care about the Juventus owners. This is not Juventus fan TV. I don't care about how much money they own. It's completely different and irrelevant to Mesut Ozil.
Well, it's not though, is it? Because Ronaldo's a bigger footballer than Ozil.
Oh, Ronaldo, yeah, whoopee-doo. Why don't we all go and get a sock out for Ronaldo?
Yeah, but if he can do it, why can't Ozil?
Listen, This is about Mesut Ozil. This is about him and his decision. He's not turned around and said, I'm not giving anything. He said, I want to see where the ground lies. I want to know where my money's going. I was watching Darren Bent this morning on TalkSport, and he was talking about the current situation. He said, any abuse towards Mesut Ozil is disgusting. All right. First and foremost, the biggest problem that we need to worry about is the mole that's in the club. Who leaked this information? Was it a player? Was it a member of staff? Was it higher up than that? Directors? Who knows? Is this a way of trying to force Mesut Ozil out the door to get him off the wage bill? Who knows? You know, where's this story coming from about youngsters feeling threatened, like they were pressurized into making their decision? Mesut Ozil has said that he wants to evaluate the situation properly before he makes his decision. He has a right to make that decision. All right. That decision should not be made public in the first place. But if a man wants to sit there and say, I need a bit more time, I don't want to be pressurized into this, I want to evaluate everything properly, I want to do this properly with the right legal team involved so that no stone is unturned, who the hell are anyone to question that? No.
But in the meantime, there's people who want to get wages, and there's people who got, you know, there's people.
Hold on a minute. In the meantime, there's people that want to get wages. First and foremost, Arsenal are paying all their staff, right? There's no furlough, no nothing. So there's no Arsenal staff members that are not getting no wages, right? Anyone else that don't get any wages outside of Arsenal Football Club, what's that got to do with Mesut Ozil? Ain't got nothing to do with him. People talking about the 20% and they don't know where it's coming from. Well, is that Mesut Ozil's fault now? What, do you want him to pay your bills as well? Do you know what I mean? Sorry, it's not going to happen, is it? Arsenal Football Club are paying all their staff, right? So that's dealt with, all right? Stan Kroenke is, you know, as Lee said, put this 100 grand bonus there. Oh, thank you very much, Stan. Cheers, mate. It's only taken you about 15 years. We've only been sitting there like this for how long? Going, please, sir, please, sir. I had this discussion yesterday. When we really needed help as a football club, where was Stan Kroenke? Yeah, when we had players that were openly coming out and saying, even in recent times, I left Arsenal because there was no ambition. Fabregas has said it. Van Persie said it. We all know Adebayor's agent and how he was forced out of the club. Yanni was on your live stream the other day and said Sanya didn't want to leave, but he was forced out of the club. When we was going through a desperate, hard time, where was Stan Kroenke, the owner of Arsenal Football Club? Where was he? Was he helping us? Was he helping us? So why should Mesut Ozil help him? Why? Why does Mesut Ozil have to help him? He doesn't have to help him. He's asked for time to think about it properly. And the reports that were coming out last night from ESPN were saying that Mesut Ozil's actually open to having a wage cut of more than 12.5%. He just wants to know the ins and outs of everything. What's wrong with a man wanting to know where his money's going? He's earned it.
Let me put that to Lee. Lee, come on. That's reasonable, isn't it? I mean, Stan Kroenke, you know, hasn't exactly, like DT said, given his last penny to the club, has he? Yeah,
but Robbie,
it's reasonable. One second. It's reasonable now for Mesut Ozil to say, you know what? To put it quite frank, I don't really trust you. I want to find out where all this money's going to go, because it's not my job to fund all the staff there, and I don't really trust you that money's going to go and fund them. So I want to see the real situation that's going on at Arsenal, because we're only just entering into it, aren't we? So I want to see the real financial implications. Then, you know what? If it's that bad, I'll actually put more money in. What's wrong with that?
Okay, well, a minute ago, he just said he wants to see where the money's going because he has other charities and he don't know whether they're going to get their money. Then on the next stand, you're saying, oh, actually, I might put more money in. So on one hand, you're saying, oh, yeah, but if I take a pay cut, this charity might lose out. Then on the next stand, you're saying, well, actually, if the financial state's not that great, then I'll put more in. Oh, come on, which one is it? Is it either you don't want to put in at all?
You're not listening. You're not listening to me.
That's what you said.
No, I said that Mesut Ozil wants to make sure that his charities are not going to lose out from the wage that's deducted. right? Now, just because he will offer more doesn't mean that those charities will lose out. He just needs to make sure that everything is in the right place. It's not a case of waking up one morning and going, yeah, you know what, take 12.5% off my wages, cool. These are multi-million-pound contracts. They need specialist lawyers and brokers involved that can deal with every single thing that's within these contracts. Because you've got to remember,
he's not the only one with that type of contract, DT, is it?
Everybody on the planet who's taken a pay cut is that the same scenario, surely.
But no. Every scenario on every contract is different. Everyone has their own reasons and their own way of dealing with things. Mesut Ozil's way, and you've got to remember this, Mesut Ozil has not come out and said, no, you're not having a wage cut. No. If he'd said that, then we could have a proper argument and say, right, well, hold on a minute.
But you're saying he's a special case.
I'm not saying he's a special case. I'm saying that he's turned around and said, I want more time. How can you question a man that wants more time to decide where his money goes? It's his money. Is that unreasonable, Lee, for him to ask for more time?
It is unreasonable, and I'll tell you why it's unreasonable, Robbie, because about 3 or 4 weeks ago, his agent came out into the media and said, I've advised every single one of my clients, which Mesut Ozil is one of his clients, I've advised every single one of them to take a deferral instead of taking a pay cut. Now, this is what people seem to be misunderstanding, right? The money that's being taken as a pay cut is not going anywhere other than to paying the non-playing staff at the football club. Now, the top brass at this football club have taken a 30% pay cut. So all the board executives, they've all taken 30%. Stan Kroenke's offered to put money in. We don't know how much that is, but he's offered to put money in. The fact and reality is he is still paying every single player and every single member of staff that is non-playing at that football club and has done without getting a single bit of income so far, yeah? So he's losing out. The club are losing out. We as football fans are losing out because we can't go and see him. The only people that ain't losing out here are the footballers because they're still getting paid their massive sums. They're not they're not the only people on the planet that are contractually, signed up to something and are due their money. He seems to be a special case in the fact that, oh, well, I want to see where all the money's going. Well, what, you want to see if the tea lady's getting paid, or you want to see if the club shop guy's getting paid, or the sweeper outside's getting paid? At the end of the day, the money is going to paying the non-playing staff.
But if you was in
his contract, Robbie, his contract is less complex than the likes of Messi and Ronaldo, and they took a hit just like that.
Would you, if you was in his shoes, Lee, right? If you was in his shoes, would you trust Stan Kroenke? Would you trust the guys that have been trying to sort of push you out of the club for the past year or so? Would you trust
them to pay me for the last 6 years, Robbie?
No.
That's paid late, then why wouldn't I trust them?
That's a contract that's in place, right? But would you, in general, I'm not just talking about payment now.
I'm just saying, he's the only footballer on the planet right now that's not been tried to be forced out of a football club. Come on, man, there's loads. Would you, if you're in his shoes, would you trust Stan? You can't answer that question one way or the other because I'm not in his shoes. I'm not sitting in a mansion getting 350 grand a week at the moment. I'm not sitting there being forced out a year ago. And by the way, the reason he was being forced out is because of his performances on the football pitch. Yeah, not because of Mesut Ozil, the human being. It was because of his piss poor performances on the football pitch, which is why the club were trying to get rid of him, because the previous regime had left. The new regime realised we're paying him an absolute stupid amount of money. We trebled his wages off of the back of nothing, and they tried to get rid. Then Granit Xhaka did what he did in terms of throwing the armband, and Unai Emery's biggest mistake was bringing him back into the team. Because if he hadn't, I believe he would have left in the summer and we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Instead, it gave him hope. It got back in the team. And now we're sitting here as him being a special case and the only one who don't have to do anything because it's Mesut Ozil.
No,
yeah, all the other players with bigger and better names than him have taken a pay cut.
Well, it's absolute rubbish. How can you sit there and say it's a special case? The man wants to know where his money's going. You've got no right to tell anybody where their money's going. You've got absolutely no right. And the one thing you keep referencing to all the time, and I've noticed it, is, his mansion on 350 grand a week. Yeah, he's earned it. He's earned it.
I didn't say he didn't. In fact, I said he hadn't.
What that sounds like is someone that's very bitter, very jealous, and has an agenda. Because all you keep mentioning, we're not on about having a mansion. We're trying to have a discussion about Mesut Ozil having a wage cut. So why do you keep referencing Mesut Ozil
working on that basis? Why would you bring up?
He's going to sit at home playing Fortnite and well, right now it's not his fault that he can't play football. So if he wants to sit at home all night and play PS4 and play Fortnite, he can do what the fuck he wants, right? He's earned the money he's earned.
I actually agree with you. I never said he didn't earn it. At the end of the day, I even said yesterday to Robbie, anyone who's made it as a professional footballer, has worked their backside. And I said to Robbie, I said, you know what it's like in football. It's a cutthroat, ruthless business. Anyone who makes it, fair play to them, yeah? And I also said the spectrum between Ozil and Saga is light years apart. But guess what? When you broke down the tax and he pays X amount tax and he pays this in national insurance, Bukayo Saka pays the same level of tax. Yeah, the difference is it's all relative to what you're earning. So if I was earning £1,500 a week and you're earning £15,000 a week, you're going to pay more tax than me. It's relative. Yeah, so it's irrelevant because Ramsey earns more than him and the tax is higher. And people sitting there going, oh, but Ramsey's paying. Who cares about that? Anybody who works in a country has to pay tax. It's as simple as that. So,
sure, but Lee, one of the main reasons everyone's on his case is because of the amount of money he gets in wages.
He's a talismanic.
If it would have been like one of the guys that are on 10 grand a week who refused, he wouldn't be getting so much
absolute
stick.
rubbish. If this was
the highest,
crucified,
he's the highest earner, so he's getting a lot of stick. He's on 350 grand a week.
If this was Mustafi or Granit Xhaka, or one of the other players, if Iwobi was still here and he refused it, Jesus Christ, they'd want him lynched. Yeah, but because it's Mesut Ozil, it's okay because it's Mesut Ozil. No, at the end of the day, he doesn't legally have to do it. I get that. He's worked his ass off to get to what he's got. I get that. Whether I agree with what he's getting paid or not is irrelevant. We're not talking about that. What we're talking about is the fact he has refused to take a pay cut based on the fact that he wants more time to see where the money's going. Well, how comes Aubameyang didn't want more time if he's not one of the other two? How comes everybody else in the squad don't need more time because they know where the money's going, because they've all been in a group chat, which also broke into the media, and they've been told it's to the non-playing football staff. But him and his agent have colluded together for their own personal gain, or his agent's personal gain, because his agent has come out a month ago and said, don't take anything. We want to see where the finances of the football club are in 6 months, which you can't do unless you can decipher a balance sheet. When you do your tax returns, depending on when your tax year ends as a company, that will not go onto Company's House until 9 months and 1 day later. Yeah, he'll be out of the football club by then.
Even this thing about wanting time, DT, yeah, like Lee says, right? It doesn't seem like nobody else at the club's come out and said that. We want to see. I want more time to see. What makes it? Hold on. What makes him so special? That he's
not about special.
More time.
Everybody is different. Yeah, you cannot tell anyone how quick they have to do anything. This is not a game of countdown.
What, do you think
there's youngsters at the club that we're hearing were not wanting to make a decision also, but they felt pressured into doing it? Mesut Ozil won't feel pressured. He wants to do it. You cannot question somebody. I keep making this point. You cannot question someone wanting more time to know where the exact situation is and where the ground lies. Do the club need more help than they're talking about? Or do they not need as much help as they're talking about? He wants to know the current situation.
All right,
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that.
Let me ask you this. As one of the senior players in the team, does it set a really bad example that Mesut Ozil is one of the highest earner and a very also probably the most senior player in the team, right? Probably apart from Bellerin, he's been there just as long as anybody. It sets a bad example, doesn't it? That he,
because
you've got all your other teammates, including the manager, that have taken a pay cut, and you're amongst the 3 people who said, "Actually, nah, man, I ain't doing it."
No,
it's a team, right? It sets a bad example, doesn't it?
Robbie, listen, it's his decision. It doesn't set any example because he's not there to please other people. He wants to make sure.
They're a team, aren't they?
He wants to make sure his money is going the right way. If reports are to be believed, that the dressing room's in uproar because of the way he's being treated. That was the reports last night, that the dressing room's not against him because he's taking more time. The dressing room's against the fact that where he's being treated by everyone out here in the media, online, wherever.
Oh,
Apparently,
poor Mesut. It's all about Mesut Ozil. Poor Mesut. Let's wrap him up in cotton wool. It's always the same with the geezer. It's always the same with him. Poor Mesut Ozil, the victim. It is the same year in, year out. This time it's to do with a pay cut. The geezer should be leading by example as one of the captains of this football club.
Agenda. That's all it is. It's an agenda. It's an agenda. If this was
every year, it's boring.
If this was Aubameyang, the roles would be reversed and Lee would be.
Because you know what? I've also cussed him as well.
Absolutely.
I've sat here and slagged Aubameyang off for not defensively tracking back all of last season, mate. Yeah, I don't have an agenda against players. I don't kiss players' backsides.
Talking about tracking back, whoopie-doo. Yeah, everyone can criticise the player. We're on about this current situation. You would be,
and he is one of 3 players who's refused to take a pay cut because poor Mesut wants to check the balance.
You're a hypocrite. What you've come with nothing factual. All you've come out with is you going, oh, poor Mesut Ozil, he's got a mansion, he earns loads of money.
Yeah, I've come out with a lot of factual stuff. That he is the talismanic guy of the football club.
Why should he? Why should he roll?
Because he's a role model of this football club, mate. That's why. Yeah, he's idolised by thousands of millions of people.
He should not model himself on nobody. Mesut Ozil is Mesut Ozil, not Cristiano Ronaldo, not Lionel Messi. We're Arsenal Football Club, not Juventus, not Barcelona. Everyone has different reasons. You have no logic and no facts to anything that you've spouted.
I do, don't I? Because at the end of the day,
hold on a minute. Last night, I even heard you talking about Mesut Ozil as a person. You actually started speaking to it about him as a person, that he's got no morals and everything else.
His morals when he walks off the football pitch in Baku.
Yourself.
Let Lee come in.
When he kicked,
DT, let Lee come in. Hold on.
Like a baby, yeah. Did he have morals then? What's he showing Saga then? So yeah, when I say he hasn't got any morals, DT, yeah, right? The fact and reality is, you're sitting there saying that I've come with no facts. It is a fact. He's the highest paid player at the football club and he's one of the 4 captains. Facts, yeah? He's refused a pay cut based on what his agent has advised him to do. Fact. Everybody else at the club is taking a pay cut other than 2 unnamed people. Fact. Other names, bigger and better than him, that are earning more money than him, are doing more for their clubs unaided because they're not a special case. Poor Mesut Ozil is always the victim. Yeah, I'm sick and tired of the circus that goes around this geezer. At the end of the day, the moral aspect of this is wrong. He is idolised by millions of people across the globe. If he stood up and was the front runner and actually led and said, do you know what? As one of the captains of this football club, I will lead by example. I will be the guy that goes first. I will be the guy that says, yes, I'm taking the pay cut. Yeah. Instead, he's sitting in the doldrums going, oh, no, I want to see where the money's going. Get out of here, man. Seriously. Yeah, it's a joke.
Why is it wrong? Why is it wrong for him to do that? It's not wrong for him to do that.
So why is he the only one who's doing it then? Why is he the only one allowed to get away with it?
How is he getting away with it? Do you know his financial situations? Do you know where all his money goes? Are you his accountant? Do you run his bank?
Well, I'm quite sure he's eating all right, mate. Yeah? I don't think he's starving right now, is he?
It's because it's, oh my dear Lord, some of the logic you come out with. Oh, he lives in a mansion. He's not starving. Yeah. Mate, seriously, wind it in, man. It's absolute boring. It's an agenda against Mesut Ozil.
It's not an agenda. It's speaking the truth and the fact. He is a captain of this football club who is advised by his agent not to take a wage cut because they want to see the balance sheet of Arsenal Football Club, like they're an accountant. Yeah, at the end of the day, they all know where the money's going. It's going to play in the other staff.
Okay, guys. Okay, what I want to ask you,
because here's a fact, yeah. Mesut Ozil has a contract. He does not have to do anything other than what's in that contract. He don't have to take a wage cut, nothing. There's a fact, all right? But he's not said that. He said that I want to see. Now, if Mesut Ozil this week turns around and goes, you know what? I've looked at everything, at how it's laid and whatnot. I actually want to put more than 12.5% in. I've looked at it. I've worked everything out with my legal team and whatnot. I want to put more in. Here we go. Let's just say, you know, hypothetically speaking, 20% of my wages, yeah? What are you then going to do? Do another show with Lee where he says, oh, yeah, Mesut, well done, thank you, yeah. What, you're going to praise him?
Why wouldn't I praise that?
You're going to praise him for taking his time?
Yeah, why wouldn't I praise that? Why wouldn't I praise that?
You're slagging him off for taking his time now!
Why is it always him? He should get that Balotelli t-shirt. Why is it always him?
You can't.
All right, hold on. I want to ask. Hold on 1 second. I want to ask you both this.
You cannot slag off Mesut Ozil for taking his time, and then if he does decide to give more, you praise him.
All
right, hold on 1 second. How much time, DT? How much time does he need?
As long as he needs to sort it out, and what his legal team are doing. What the reports were saying last night. That he has an agreement in place. And the only thing that's missing now are the legal papers. You know, remember that.
He needs to see the books.
It's not a case of Mesut Ozil turning up and going, yeah, it's all right. Here you go. Have a piece of paper. Here you go. Yeah, just sign that. It's not like that. The reports last night were saying that an agreement is in place. It's now down to the legal team to draw up the right paperwork and that. And don't tell me, listen, when this came out last night, there's about 12 hours between the story first breaking to where it got to here. That decision of that magnitude was not made within 12 hours like a U-turn or something. Mesut Ozil was doing his own thing in his own time and doing it the way he wanted to do it.
The story from his agent broke 3 or 4 weeks ago, mate. Yeah, it was last month. Everyone came out and said, I've told everyone not to take a pay cut.
Yeah. When everyone was talking...
Hold on. I want to ask you both this question, yeah? I'm going to start off with you, Lee, yeah? Has Ozil made a big mistake in refusing to take this pay cut?
100%, Robbie. At the end of the day, regardless of whether he wants to have a look at it and put more money into it or not, yeah? The legal side of it, this, the legal side of it, that. How comes every other player at that football club hasn't had to go down the legal side of it to take the 12.5%? If he wants to put more money in, cool. Happy days, well done to you. Why don't you do that now? Why are you waiting? What are you waiting for? Yeah, you know where the money's going, the same as every other player who said they'll take the pay cut. At the end of the day, he's been advised by his agent for the benefit of his agent. For me, he's a disgrace. He should lead by example as a captain at this football club, like the other talismanic figures that their football clubs have done.
All right, and the same question for you, DT. Is it a mistake? Has he made a mistake? Whether he's right or wrong, has he made a mistake in saying that he's not going to take a pay cut?
No.
Why? Because he's not looking great at the moment. I mean,
first and foremost, Robbie, all of this should have been confidential anyway. We're talking about contracts here. This information should be confidential. So first and foremost, let's have a look at Smithers, right? And him bringing out this into the press in the first place, all right? So this should never have even been public knowledge, all right? This should have been something that's done behind closed doors. He wanted time to evaluate the situation and decide what he's going to do. 12.5 or even more. Yeah. Now that's leading by example if you're doing more. Yeah. So what's going to happen then? Are you then going to turn around to the other big players within the side that earn big money like Aubameyang, Lacazette, Pepe, David Luiz, Mustafi, Xhaka, and say, well, hold on a minute, Mesut Ozil's just taken a 20% pay cut. You've only took 12.5. Why
no,
are
you can't do that. You can't do that. Do you know why? They'll be pressured into it.
See, look, there you go. You can't. It's a never-ending cycle. This is what I'm trying to say. He's got no facts and no logic to anything that he said.
Okay. Listen. All right. I want to thank both of you. Thank you both for coming on today. I've enjoyed listening to both arguments. You both make a very passionate case both ways.
What side are you on, Robbie?
You know what? Well, you know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to even say what side I'm on. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna.
You're going to take more time to think about it first.
I'm going to take a while to think about it. But what I do want to do is find out what side everybody else is on. Right. So, what side you guys? You're watching this. What side are you on? Are you on DT's side? Do you agree with DT that there's nothing wrong with him waiting to make this decision? Or are you on Lee's side where you say, listen, everybody else has made a sacrifice. He should make a sacrifice as well. We'll do a poll on it, right? We'll do a poll on it. Do you agree with DT or do you agree with Lee? Let us know. But I want to thank both of them for coming on today. They're both brilliant. Both passionate with their arguments, and it's given us a lot to think about today. So thank you very much Don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow with another AFTV News Daily. But thank you to DT. Thank you to Lee Gunner. Don't forget to check out both of their channels. Both brilliant stuff on both of them as well. And I'm sure they'll continue the debate on. Thank you very much. The coronavirus has not just affected the world of football, but has affected everybody. But you know what? We can defeat it. If you're displaying any of the symptoms, always make sure that you self-isolate. I know it's a terrible time, but we will defeat the coronavirus. We will be back.